morning. Despite contrary belief, I do have a driver's license, but my mom did drop me off here this morning. So just real quick on Andy, I think about Andy every day I go to work as a hoser. He did a lot of work for the fire service. He held us accountable for being masters of our craft. And this presentation here, I believe every word of it. I support it, and I hope you guys too. So we'll just get right into it. The title I chose for this address, Don't Worry About That Nozzle Kid Because We Don't Do Fires Anymore, is meant to reflect what I see as a disheartening reality that many of today's fire service leaders no longer believe fire suppression is our most important mission, or worse, still a part of our mission at all. This is very troubling to me because I tend to be a bit of a traditionalist. To me, the fire service is still dirty hose, smooth more nozzle tips. It's hose bed dividers with the paint chipped due to being whacked by couplings thousands of times. It's seasoned firefighters who know what it means to pull a ceiling and know what to do when they're told to trim a window. And chiefs who trust their instincts and exude what Chief Dunn calls command presence. You might ask, are you old school? I guess in many ways I am. For I truly believe that tradition is important to long-term survival of the fire service. A friend of mine recently pointed out that the best fire departments in this nation know how to blend tradition and innovation because in order to be successful, you need a measure of both. Progress, change, innovation, they're all important. But firefighting today in the year 2016 still remains largely a gritty, risky, up-close, and personal affair using tactics and techniques that date back decades. Even on the high-tech battlefield of today, it is the soldier and his rifle that still make the difference in wartime. So until they make greater strides in the fire prevention and fix suppression arenas, the firefighter and his nozzle will continue to be the difference between life and death for literally thousands of Americans threatened by fire every year. Now let me share with you the first of several examples of why I'm a bit disheartened. The chief of a large metropolitan fire department in the West tells his recruits at the start of their basic training program the following: if you're here to be firefighters and fight fires, you might as well get out of here now. We don't fight fires anymore. This is a new fire department. Well, to me, this is a fairly ignorant statement considering in 2015, there were over 1.3 million fires in this country, including over 500,000 fires in structures that killed over 2,600 of our fellow citizens. Let's not forget the firefighters. The inscription on the firefighters' monument in New York City refers to firefighters as soldier in the war that never ends. Since Andy Fredericks gave this speech at FDIC in the year 2000, at least 1,800 brother and sister firefighters have paid with their lives with waging this war. On September 11th, 2001, Andy gave his own life waging the same war. So is it possible this chief has been brainwashed? Has perhaps he been given some bad information that brainwashed him into believing that since fires are down, the art and science of firefighting is no longer important? That our myriad other missions deserve more of our attention? Well, chickens always come home to roost, and nowhere will the impact of our service diversity be more tragically felt. And this is unfortunate, but more tragically felt than on other fire grounds of the new millennium. Now let me ask you guys a question. Who in the audience believes that fires are down? Surprisingly enough, there's no hands up, but I believe when he gave this address, some people did raise their hands. I honestly thought in writing this address there'd be more hands. Let me explain something. Every time I hear the statement, fires are down, I cringe. It hurts morale, discourages our new firefighters, and is in many ways a lie. Fires are down compared to what? What baseline data is being used? This small L-bit information is conveniently overlooked by fiscal managers looking to slash firefighter jobs, looking to close your fire stations, and shamefully, this vital piece of information is all but ignored by fire chiefs who should be battling tooth and nail for more firefighters and more firefighting resources. Let's try and place this whole fires are down thing in perspective. Certainly, if we compare structure fire incidents today to the mid-1970s, fires are down, and that's the crux of the problem. Structure fire incidents today is compared exclusively to statistically skewed 15 or 20-year period of time, beginning around 1966 and ending in the early to mid-1980s. Anybody who lived through the period knows that this was a very unique one in our nation's history. Several complex issues combined to bring about a period of unprecedented fire activity. If we compare structure fire incidents today with any other period in modern history, we find that structure fires are not down, they're up significantly. So, are fires really down? My point is, let's admit to ourselves that we're still in the business of fighting fires. Unfortunately, or fortunately, I guess depending on your point of view, we will be for a long time to come. The changing demographics of the past 25 years, as well as continuing suburbanization, has resulted in a redistribution of fire activity. One neighborhood is just as likely to suffer a fire today as the next. The so-called busy fire companies may not be as busy as they were in 1976, but the traditionally slow fire companies are a lot busier. My answer to this Western fire chief is, get your facts straight. Fires still occur, and in large numbers. If individual fire companies are not as active as they were in the 1970s and 1980s, at least as far as fires are concerned, then guess what? You're the chief. It's still your job to train them and make sure those firefighters are prepared. Another example of changing priorities. A probationary firefighter from a large East Coast fire department, fresh out of basic training. He's assigned to an engine company, just like many of the engine companies you guys probably respond to on calls on. At the start of his first tour of duty, he begins with familiarizing himself with his company's apparatus and its equipment. Certainly okay so far. But due to the emphasis placed on his department's EMS focus in Proby School, the first piece of equipment he checks is the life pack. Before the hose and the nozzles. Why is this wrong? I think it's wrong because it will ultimately hurt firefighters. Let me explain. While I'm not a big fan of fire service-based EMS, and certainly my friends in the audience can attest to that, which that is true, I realize that it's an integral part of many fire departments and it has saved firefighter lives as well as many civilians. More importantly, though, I believe a working nozzle on the end of a hose line and in the hands of an experienced nozzleman could help save 2, 10, maybe even 100 lives, civilian and firefighters alike. My recommendation is check the EMS gear, sure, but check the hose and check the nozzles first. What about the issue of trying to legislate safety? Specifically the 2 in, 2 out debacle. Who doesn't have an opinion on 2 in, 2 out? Consider the following statement from our commentary written by Captain Greg Falkenthal of the Vallejo, California Fire Department, which appeared in the March 1999 issue of Fire Engineering. I quote, "Our greatest mistake was somehow falling under the illusion that legislation equals safety. Safety cannot be legislated, mandated, promised, or guaranteed by statute or any other magic wand. Practicing OSHA's 2 in, 2 out rule doesn't make a firefighter safe any more than walking into a garage makes you a car." Interesting words, entirely true. I view 2 in, 2 out as a cop-out standard. It's a sham. When the 2 who are in and get into trouble, what are the 2 who are out really going to do? What are they going to be able to do? My experience is that it may take up to half a dozen or more firefighters just to remove one. Just one who's in distress. So who's kidding whom? To me, and I know this will probably get some of you angry, but the safest way to operate, if there are only 4 personnel available for interior firefighting, I think is all 4. And the reason is that the search for victims will be completed much more quickly, but most importantly, water will be applied to the fire itself in a shorter time frame, which eliminates all the hazards that 2 in, 2 out was created to address in the first place. If 2 in, 2 out is not the answer, how do we improve safety on the fire ground? Quite simply, we train and we staff. Captain Falkenthal continues, and I quote, "No mandate will ever take the place of intelligent decisions made by competent, well-trained, and experienced fireground personnel acting appropriately based on the most accurate information available at the time." In other words, safety is an outgrowth, a byproduct, if you will, of sound fireground tactics employed by sufficient numbers of well-trained firefighters supervised by competent chief officers. Now let's look at staffing. Fire company staffing in this country is a disgrace. Consider a small career department in any state USA. Each company is staffed with a driver and a captain. That's the street reality for an awful lot of fire departments in this country. It may literally take 3, 4, or even 5 companies from this department to arrive before they can legally comply with 2 in, 2 out. It is so grossly understaffed, it relies on its ambulance personnel to make up a rapid intervention team. Way back in the fiscally strapped 1970s, the fire departments everywhere bit the bullet. We were team players. We took the heats to keep our community solvent. Although firehouses were closed and a large number of firefighter positions were lost to attrition, the politicians promised us that when the better time came, we would get our people back, that our firehouses would reopen. We even made ourselves more productive by diversifying to ensure it would happen. Well, the better times are here, but I don't see the staffing coming back. Do you? We're continually doing more with less, and firefighter safety is the ultimate loser. Are we really fighting to get our staffing back? One fire chief claims his department was under tremendous pressure from the city hall to cut costs. He decimated the training division, closed companies, laid off firefighters. He then turned around and returned $1 million in unused budget monies to the city coffers. Now, I always thought growing up that the fire chief was supposed to be on our side. It certainly betrays the trust of the firefighters that this chief is supposed to protect. Another favorite subject of mine, customer service. According to some, the fire service desperately needs lessons in how to treat our customers. We used to call them victims because victims don't have a choice. Customers do, but regardless, we are selling ourselves short when we say we need customer service training. The fire service may be the only organization, public or private, that still actually practices customer service. We've been setting things right for decades. Day or night, rain or shine, pull the box or pick up the phone, and we will come and solve your problem, and we do it courteously and professionally. Hopefully, we all learn the importance of saying please and thank you in kindergarten. Now, why don't we spend more time practicing how to stretch hand lines and force doors, which ultimately will serve our most important customers, the victims of uncontrolled fire? What about our cart before the horse training philosophy? Why do we train rookie firefighters to bail out windows before we teach them to properly stretch a line and put out a room of fire? Get Out Alive was never intended to eclipse basic firefighter training. Last year in his keynote address, Bob Pressler mentioned a fire department with young, aggressive firefighters. Each firefighter carried webbing and carabiners in his turnout coat pockets in order to be able to rescue and remove a trapped firefighter. But if we somehow got trapped or lost at a fire, these firefighters could rescue you if they found you. But they probably would never find you because nobody ever taught them how to search a smoke-filled area properly. Again, the cart is before the horse. We must put the cart back behind the horse and train realistically and frequently in basic firefighting procedures. Back to basics must never become just another hollow cliche. We should teach our students the greatest anti-bailout tool that exists is a nozzle. Put the fire out and your brother and sister firefighters will not have to jump out a window. It's that simple. Closely aligned with our skewed training agenda is our love affair with gimmicks and the belief that technology offers the solution to all our problems on the fire ground. The introduction of hydraulic tools for forcible entry is but one example. While these tools are certainly helpful, have we become overly dependent upon them? How many firefighters in your department can still force a door with an axe and a Halligan or just a Halligan in a smoke-filled hallway without visibility? Consider a more recent development, thermal imaging technology. Fire departments everywhere have purchased thermal imaging cameras. This is great, but it is simply a tool to help firefighters perform their basic mission of searching smoke-filled areas for fire and for fire victims. It is not meant to replace sound search procedures and other time-tested fireground tactics. While thermal imaging and advanced turnout gear have made our jobs safer and easier, at the same time, they have also made it more complex and introduced new dangers that we should be aware of. Given the hostile nature of the fireground, technology must never take the place of sound judgment formed by good training and hands-on experience. In a nutshell, technology isn't and should never become a substitute for common sense. Well, now that I've identified a variety of problems, I'm obligated to at least propose some tentative solutions. First and foremost, as a group, we must collectively admit that firefighting is an inherently dangerous occupation, and there's not much we'll ever be able to do about that. It is manual labor performed under the most dangerous and uncomfortable conditions known to man. Firefighter injuries and deaths will continue to occur, and anyone who is so naive as to believe otherwise lives in a fantasy land. As Bill Manning noted in the editorial brilliant white cover issue, this is what a perfectly safe firefighting operation looks like. To achieve zero firefighter deaths and injuries, you must have zero firefighters on the fireground. Second, we must realize our limitations. The now classic book, In Search of Excellence, by Thomas Peters and Robert Waterman, is subtitled Lessons from America's Best Run Companies. Chapter 10 is titled Stick to the Nitty. In it, the authors point out that any organization that strays too far from its core strengths that over-diversify is doomed for failure. We cannot, as a fire service, continue to take on new tasks and responsibilities without paying a price, and that price, unfortunately, is a diluted ability to function at fires. We have truly become jacks of all trades, masters of none. We believe that diversity was the key to survival. All it has really done for us is ensured mediocrity in our performance at fires. What about diversity in staffing levels? Has embracing EMS and other services improved our staffing? Has service diversity ensured that you respond to every call with 5 personnel on an apparatus? Is the fire ground, in your experience, any safer? The demands placed on our time by our diverse missions means less time learning how to fight fires and getting to know the buildings we fight them in. We must reevaluate our priorities. Third, training itself must be refocused. It is a disgrace that fewer and fewer fire departments are able to participate in live fire training due to environmental concerns and restrictive standards that are often unrealistic and misguided. Our field of battle is unforgiving. We must train like we fight in Class A burn buildings and acquired structures. At the New York State Academy of Fire Science, recruit firefighters get to practice fire attack in a smoked building with sheetrock walls and furnished rooms. Highly realistic. At the Rockland County Fire Training Center in New York, our flashover unit has exposed thousands of firefighters to flashover warning signs and giving them a better understanding of fire development and the limitations of their personal protective clothing. Our hot sessions, particularly live fire, engine company operations, search and truck company operations, should allow firefighters to operate in real buildings under realistic conditions. As has been said, more sweat and training, less blood in battle. Let's restore realistic live fire training to its proper place. The environmental impact is minimal. The rewards will be amazing. Fourth, we need experienced, educated leaders. But where do good leaders come from? They must come from the trenches. It should be forbidden for our line and chief officers to spend most of their careers in staff positions and then be allowed to assume command of line firefighters with little actual firefighting experience. Effective leaders must put firefighting first. I know that technical rescue is glamorous, hazmat is important, and emergency management is currently a hotbed. In the past 10 years, almost 50 times more Americans died in fires than in natural disasters, terrorist acts, and hazardous materials incidents combined. Good leaders must also be educated. We must support the efforts of the National Fire Academy. We must increase funding for the USFA and fire programs around the nation. Why is so much money being directed to emergency management, disaster mitigation, anti-terrorism initiatives, and hazardous materials response when they actually constitute a minimal threat compared to the fires that killed fellow citizens in ones and twos day in, day out, all year long? Fire departments, like police departments, who seem to really have the handle on this, must seize every opportunity for training and assist their members in obtaining training as frequently as possible. Local community college fire science programs, many of which have been abandoned in the last few years. It should be rejuvenated, revived. The internet offers a solution for increasing the education level of the fire service, provided the quality of the programs is high and access is widely available at home, as well as in the firehouse. Fifth, we must gain control of the standard-making process itself. Why do bureaucrats think they know more about firefighting and what's best for us than we do? We're out of the loop as much as our own fault as anyone's. We must get back into that loop. Become politically active, help determine our own destiny, the standards that will keep you safe. Sixth, we must be sensitive to the changing face of America and how this will impact fire service recruitment and retention down the road. Almost 50% of our nation's population now belongs to a minority group. This so-called Generation X problem in education is real, and it must be addressed. Problems in education and discipline in society at large are migrating their way into the fire service. Fire training today is much more challenging than it was a few years ago. As a group, we must acknowledge these issues and begin formulating plans to solve them before it becomes a crisis. Lastly, let me say that I'm proud to be a firefighter and very proud to be associated with all of you. Many of you, I'm sure, are like me, are a little saddened by the shifting priorities of the modern fire service. One firefighter at a hot class told me that the fire service today seems to be a lot about nothing. One Eastern Fire Department has stopped using the title firefighter and now calls its personnel ERTs, or emergency response technicians. Talk about a blow to morale. Imagine some little boy or little girl telling his mommy and daddy that they want to grow up to be an ERT. While sagging morale may be a fact, we must always remember why we became firefighters in the first place, and that our traditional mission, fire suppression, is still very unique. As a late senior whip on Engine Company 48 in the Bronx used to say, "Sure, that's great, but can you make a long hallway?" What he meant is that there are many people capable of performing the different functions on our diverse menu of services. All the functions except for one crawling down that hot, smoke-filled hallway, never really knowing if you might come back. That's why we are unique. We are firefighters. We should be proud of that fact, so my dear brothers and sisters, keep making those hallways, but still, please stay low, stay safe, and God bless all of you. Thank you.